Hi everyone, welcome to the Globe Air Quality Campaign for September 2022 information session. I'm sending this to you by video, so hopefully you'll have a chance to take a look at this before the campaign launches. My name is Aileen. I coordinate the Globe Air Quality Campaign in Ireland, and I'm country coordinator of the Globe programme. Just to tell you a little bit about GLOBE, it's an international science and education program out of the United States, and it's sponsored by NASA. So GLOBE stands for Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. So it's all about citizen science, particularly at schools. It's about collecting information from the environment under 4 different spheres, so atmosphere, biosphere, pedosphere, and hydrosphere. There are many ways to engage with Globe. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the website. It's quite detailed. If you do sign up for a teacher account there, it's approved here in Globe Ireland. And then you will have access to e-training on all these different spheres. And you'll have access to resources that you can share with your students. So let's get on to business. We'll just talk about the air quality campaign in particular. So first of all, thank you to everyone for signing up. It's been fantastic to see the amount of registrations come through. Once again, we filled up much faster than we thought. We have about 200 schools now registered for this current campaign, which is our 8th air quality campaign. And as you know, this is sponsored by the EPA, and we work very closely with the EPA air quality team initially to set this up, and they're obviously very interested and engaged in the results. The campaign is really focused on traffic-related pollution, so that's in particular, we'll be looking at nitrogen dioxide. And as I said, this is a school-based citizen science campaign. The main purpose would be to raise awareness around air pollution, but of course, this gives an opportunity for students in schools to actually collect meaningful data that supports the EPA in their decisions around the environment. So once again, thank you all for your participation. So just really quick on what is nitrogen dioxide. It's a pollutant gas that's emitted from vehicles, so cars, trucks, lorries. The highest levels will be observed closest to the busy roads. This can be particularly at intersections where there's idling traffic. And in canyons or even street canyons where there's poor ventilation, you'll see particularly high levels of NO2. The main message here is that it's harmful to our health. There really is no safe level of pollution. So the EPA are particularly concerned about local levels of pollution where they would not have one of their monitoring stations in place to record the levels of NO2 that are in the area. So this is where schools come into action. So we established the Globe Air Quality Campaign back in 2019. It really is a kind of 8 to 10 week project, and you can manage it and coordinate it in your class or in your school as you like. If you don't have a lot of time to spend on this and you simply want to receive the air quality pack and put up your tubes to monitor the air pollution, take them down after the monitoring period and send them back, that's fine. If you wish to engage your class and your school in this project, there's a lot there to do around it. So I'm just going to go through some of the practical elements of the air quality campaign just to give you some basic information. And then I'll just give you a little bit more detail on some aspects, such as additional information you can gather while your tubes are up, in case you want to make this into a bigger project. And of course, we'll talk a little bit at the end just about the idea of making kind of more solutions-oriented projects and encouraging students to kind of communicate back on their results. So that's the rough idea. It should be just about 10 minutes of presentation. Okay, so you will receive an air quality pack, I hope, in your school, and they're going to be sent out at the end of next week. September 21st, and you should have them, depending on where you're located in the country, you should have them sometime between September 21st and September 28th. The idea is that on September 29th, so you will put up your tubes, go outside and put up your tubes, and you will be able to mount them following the instructions that will be included in the air quality pack. So just to say, in the air quality pack when they arrive, it's a small enough envelope. It'll have tubes and zip ties and some plastic holders in there, and a pre-stamped pre-addressed envelope for returning your tubes to us after the monitoring period. The first hurdle of all of this is making sure your air quality pack does not go missing in the office. So it sounds really simple, but often this happens. So just to check in every so often in the office to see if it has arrived, and hopefully as soon as you get it, you can put it up into or put it into the fridge in the staff room until the 29th, the date to mount the tubes. This just keeps the reagent in the cap fresh. So let's have a look just at the diffusion tube itself, just so you know. They can be mounted onto many different objects like lampposts and gates. So it should be somewhere around the school to put it. You will receive, like I said, a zip tie and the mounting hardware. The tube is fairly simple. It's just a plastic tube. It has a top on here with a mesh in it, and there's a reagent on that mesh that reacts with nitrogen dioxide in the air. There's a lower cap that you will remove on the 29th. You'll have put up your tube and then remove that cap, and that essentially starts the experiment. The main little task to do at this point would be to record down your number. So each tube has a different number. It's just a 7-digit number. To make note of that number and record the date and time that you're putting your tubes up, because I will actually be sending a form, an online form, and you can just stick in your information there, just noting where you've put your tube. This will be used and sent to the lab, I should say, and will be used to calculate your level of NO2. So it just helps the lab figure out your exposure period. So I'd really be grateful if you could record that information when that form is sent. Okay, so the other thing, just from previous schools experiences, that lower cap that you take off at the beginning to mark the beginning of that experiment, just to put it somewhere safe, so you can retrieve it after the 4 weeks and put it back on the tube. That would be great. So that's the practical element of it. There will be, like I said, in that air quality pack, there will be full instructions of how to mount your tubes. But if there are any problems, just don't hesitate to get in touch. If you feel like you're missing hardware, which is unlikely, but it can happen. Or if you run into difficulties, so it's just an email or a phone call is absolutely perfect. And all our details are in those newsletters and emails, so you should be able to find contact details there. So if you're doing this with a group that has a little bit more time to spend on the project, I'd recommend at the very beginning that they create a map at the school and pick the locations of their 3 tubes. So the idea here is, we would recommend that one tube is put kind of on the main road or busy, heavily trafficked area, I suppose. Another tube put kind of an intermediate spot, like maybe a car park, and the last one we put kind of in a more sheltered area. But if the students can get engaged, maybe by drawing a map of their school and then picking the locations based on their map and what they think, traffic pinch points are, and get them to think about coming in the morning and where the most traffic is, that would be great, and a nice way just to work on those map skills as well. In terms of gathering supplementary information, so this is kind of an opportunity to add more to the project. And, obviously, if you're thinking about submitting something to BT Young Scientist or one of the science fairs, or you want to show, the real kind of scientific skills around this is a great way to engage with the campaign at the same time. So the first thing would be to do a traffic count. So we have provided some worksheets there to do a traffic count. But it's funny, just getting the students out of the classroom and getting them down and observing traffic. I think it just connects that whole idea between air pollution and traffic just by standing there staring at the cars going by. So it's a nice way for it to really visually kind of get into their minds about the connection. The other thing they can do is record whether the cars are idling at the school or not. This is particularly evident at pickup time. So if it's an older class in primary school, this is a good one because they can go to the earlier pickup and do an idling count. And if it's secondary school, again, there's plenty of it going on as well at pickup time. So it's a great idea really to raise awareness around that and trying to encourage parents to turn off their cars while they're waiting for their children to come out of school. Also, Globe has a lot of information around how to gather measurements based, like I said before, based on the atmosphere, hydrosphere, pedosphere, and biosphere. In terms of atmosphere, the ones that are most appropriate to tie in with air pollution would be cloud observations, measuring wind direction, wind strength, and taking a look at rainfall. All of these things will have an influence on pollution. Obviously, in Ireland, we have a lot of wind and we get a good bit of rain. The rain can tend to wash those pollutants down to the surface, and the wind obviously will disperse pollutants more quickly. You'll notice during the winter, like on really still, calm days when there's very little wind, pollution will build up, particularly in urban areas, and you tend to see what we call smog. So trying to get those ideas across to students by actually going outside and engaging with taking measurements of the atmosphere at the same time is a really nice way to kind of tie it into a geography class or a science class. The Globe, like I said, on their globe.gov website, there's information on how to carry out all of those activities. In particular, I'd recommend the cloud observation. It's really easy. You can tie it in with satellite flyovers, and all this information is in the Globe Observer app. And if you do a cloud observation with your students, plus or minus 15 minutes of a satellite flyover, the satellite will send you an email down with the kind of top-down picture of the clouds, and it'll give you a rundown of what kind of cloud features, shapes, and heights that it observed, and you can compare it to yours. So really nice way just to kind of keep that theme of, you know, the atmosphere in the student's mind while they're measuring one aspect of it. And like I said, if you want to know more about Globe atmosphere protocols or how to engage more with Globe, just get in touch, and I'm happy to spend time talking you through some aspects of it. The other thing would be particulate matter. This is another Green Schools project, but it's a different pollutant. We're talking about particles, small particles in the air. Also from traffic related pollution, you will see particulate matter. And I know some schools that are taking part in the air quality campaign this year do have PM monitors at their school already. But a really nice thing to tie in with this campaign is to actually do a little PM experiment yourself, and you can simply just get something like even a postcard or maybe some cotton wool that's a little bit, you know, that you can put some glue on the outside and put it up somewhere, and all those little particles that are in the air will stick to it. You can leave it up for a few days perhaps, and then it's kind of a nice way for the students to really think about, oh yeah, like they're quite dirty looking if they're close to the road. What is that, you know, stuck? What are those particles and where are they coming from? So it's just another way to add to the campaign. Yeah, I mean, if you're a geography class, I think it's really nice to look at your local topography, so the landforms around your school. We have seen schools participating before where they're positioned in a lower lying area, you know, in kind of a basin or a valley area, and where you'd get less effective wind. So kind of poor ventilation, I suppose, is the way to put it. So it's kind of a nice way to tie it in. Conversely, if you're on top of a hill and there's, you know, a gale blowing every day, you know, this pollutant should be dispersed fairly quickly. So getting them to think about that, like how the Earth's surface influences the pollution and the atmosphere and circulation of the atmosphere is really interesting. Okay, so you know, if you've been able to gather that information during that 4-week period while the tubes are up, you can use that then as a basis of your project. And then, you know, at the end of the monitoring period, it's just as simple as putting those caps back on the tubes, recording the time and date on the form, and sending those tubes back to us. And we will send them off to the lab to be analysed. So like you should have your results by the end of November, if not just the very beginning of December, depending on how quickly you can return them. So what happens then is we would email the results to you, and we'll give you a little bit of instructions about, you know, to explain what you're seeing. And then we also share them with the EPA. And the EPA analytics team usually update. They have a nice website for us where all the results are displayed. And you can actually go to that website even now and have a look at past campaigns. But basically what you're looking at here is just screenshots from their website showing our last 2 campaigns. Each dot is a school that participated, and the colours correspond to the level of NO2 that was recorded at that school. And there's no surprises there. Like generally schools in cities and suburban areas and schools located next to busy roads will have higher levels of NO2 pollution. It's really nice if the students can kind of take a look at this too, because they can zoom in on their location, have a look at schools that are nearby, and ask questions like, why do you think their level was higher or lower, and maybe compare their school to a rural school. And it might add depth to a project if you kind of want to work on it in more detail. Okay, so just yeah, I mean, if you can share any pictures of students engaging with putting up their tubes or working on the project, that's great. We're always happy to receive them in Globe Ireland. We have social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so really delighted if you can tie in with them. And like I said, around projects, like we will have many competitions during the year. So if you can submit your projects in, so it can be scientific posters, blog posts, and all the information is in the newsletter on how you can engage with that. But it's a nice way, like I said, to engage with BT Young Scientists or science fairs and Globe work to tie in with your air quality results. And because we're part of the Globe programme and there's a huge network of countries out there working on similar projects, we will have Globe Malta again this year working with us in tandem on this Globe air quality campaign. They will be measuring NO2 on Gozo, an island off of Malta, and they are looking for schools to collaborate with. And what this means is you will respond to me and say you're interested in a collaboration. We'll set it up with a school, probably with similar age students, and then you can connect over Zoom or Teams. And often, this is a great experience for the students, but then they can work on projects in tandem. So they can have a look at a school, for instance, in Gozo, and observe their nitrogen dioxide and compare it to their school in Ireland. So it's been great to be able to do this. Again, it's just a benefit of being involved with Globe. There is a whole network there, many opportunities for collaboration, many symposiums, and there's also funding available to even visit schools and take part in their local science fairs. So if you're excited about these opportunities, please do get in touch, because there definitely is funding and opportunities available to schools that express their interest in this. Lastly, but not leastly, is that even an English word? The diffusion tubes, they work by molecular diffusion. So there's a little slide in here that explains how it works. If you're working with a science, like chemistry class, senior chemistry class, get in touch, because I have more information on how it works if you'd like to do more around that in your class. Okay, that's all from me. Thanks again for your participation. Please try to get your tubes up on the 29th, and remember to fill out the form. Be delighted to have that done, and good luck, and don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions. Thanks a million, everyone. Bye bye.